Sorry, yeah, that's fine. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren Postler, and I'm with People for Liberty. And we're delighted to have with us tonight Dr. Joe Jorgensen, Libertarian candidate for president, as well as Joe Bishop Henchman, chair of the Libertarian National Committee, Jess Mears, deputy campaign director for Joe Jorgensen for president, and Jordan Taylor Bunch, filmmaker and producer of Longing for Liberty. We're super excited, and I'll say that it was important for us to come together tonight before the election to really come back together and discuss the principles and the values that we hold in the liberty movement and why this election cycle has been so exciting, thrilling, as well as stressful. So I'd love to tell you a little bit more about People for Liberty before we get started. So People for Liberty is dedicated to empowering people to take action in the political process and reclaim the liberty promised by their forefathers. We were founded during this election cycle, so we're still a brand new organization, but we quickly shot into national recognition thanks to the efforts of some amazing grassroots volunteers who launched a number of peer groups that you may be familiar with. On Facebook, we have women voters for Jo Jorgensen, Democrats for Jo Jorgensen, Republicans for Jo Jorgensen, Black voters, so we're still LGBT brand new organization, voters, Native American voters, you name it, we have a peer group for it. And it was important for us to have those safe spaces where people could connect in order to engage people, embrace principles, and affect change together. Glitch there. Again, welcome. People for Liberty is excited to have you all. And if you're a member of one of our 16 plus different peer groups, you're already well familiar with who we are and what we do. But for those of you who are still learning about us, we operate with 3 distinct pillars. We are a hybrid organization, similar to MoveOn.org, if you're familiar with them. We have a 501c4 nonprofit that's dedicated to education and advocacy, as well as a super PAC that's dedicated to marketing and engaging and getting the word out about candidates and the causes. This election cycle, though, we've really been focused on launching the nonprofit. It's important to bring people together, and we had to start there. We're focused on next launching an online platform to bring together the curious and content creators to help engage and support the Liberty movement. That's going to include a marketplace aspect. So if you are a content creator and looking to launch your podcast or a video series or merchandise, stay tuned because we're going to offer you the chance to market your products and services to the Liberty movement and community. Within the nonprofit, some of the things we focused on, those activities include supporting grassroots efforts and leaders, building an engaged community, and nonpartisan campaigns for public relations. So what do we mean by that? Well, some of the grassroots campaigns you may have seen were led by amazing volunteers that decided that they didn't want to wait for something to happen. So they put their time, effort, resources, and talents to good use, launching Let Her Speak, which was a nationwide car convoy on August 8th, raising awareness for Jo Jorgensen's candidacy and the fact that she was excluded from the national presidential debates. We're also looking forward to supporting the Bud boycott because Anheuser-Busch was one of the major contributors of the Commission for Presidential Debates, and Stop Voter Bullying, to encourage people to learn about voter repression tactics and how they can overcome them both this election cycle and in the future. So again, I'm Lauren with People for Liberty, and we're excited to have you here with us tonight. And I believe we have Ms. Jess Mears, Deputy Campaign Director for the Jo Jorgensen campaign, and Jordan Taylor Bunch, who are going to be joining us next. So Stephen, let's see, who do we have next? Is it Jordan? Okay, can you let me know when Jordan is on screen? Hey, Jordan,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I understand you are coming to us live from Dallas, correct?
I am, yeah. I'm based in Austin, but I made the 3-hour drive up here because the big official election night party's tomorrow. So I came a little early.
Excellent. Well, Jordan, you were one of those grassroots volunteers that said, you know what, I'm not going to wait around. I got something to do here. I have something to contribute. And you set about making this amazing film, Longing for Liberty. So tell us a little bit more about that process, about why you were passionate. And again, as a grassroots volunteer without any funding, how you were able to pull off this amazing effort. And we'll talk about how we can support you again at the end of the night, but how did this all come about?
Yeah, well, I reached out to the campaign a number of times because I wanted to serve in some way. And I knew that obviously videos are a huge part of running a successful campaign these days. And so over the course of several months, I just kind of kept pestering the campaign saying, hey, please let me help you. And that turned into me getting a job coming along the campaign for 2.5 weeks. I made a couple dozen videos in the month of August. And I got back home and I was just kind of thinking about everything that I had done and talking with my wife. And she was, I came up with this idea that maybe I could do a documentary, and my wife was just like, hey, you have to do this, you have to make this happen. And so I reached back out to the campaign and said, hey, I'd like to do this. I understand that, funds are tight. I'm going to do this on my own dollar. And because I think this is really important. I think it's so important that right now we spread the idea of liberty in whatever ways that we can. And so I came back on the campaign bus with Dr. Jorgensen for another week with the express purpose of filming this documentary. So and then it was pretty much a whirlwind. I mean, normally for something like this, I would have a crew of 3 to 6 people on set at any given time, but with all the constraints given to us because of the coronavirus and being on a campaign bus, I was doing everything myself. So that was a big challenge, but thankfully I was able to get back home and really work with my team. So I have a team of other filmmakers who work with me full time. And so we were able to do all the post-processing and everything and get the film ready in about 10 days. So pretty remarkable feat actually.
That's incredible. I work with media a lot, and that's an amazing turnaround time. So congratulations to you and your production team.
Thank you.
Jordan, tell us a little bit about some of your favorite moments and how you pieced together the concept for Longing for Liberty. Because I think you touch on a lot of key themes that are important to us as people for liberty in the movement. How did that concept come about? How did you identify people to talk to? And what were some of your favorite moments?
Yeah, well, there was maybe one of my favorite moments is actually just this little scene that we did inside of a farmer's market in Oklahoma. And I thought it was really great because it showed who Joe is as a person in a really great way. It was very authentic to her. And I think it was extremely endearing because she's an endearing person. But also there was some other really amazing moments, like when I interviewed a Black man who is a police commissioner in the city of Detroit, who in his words was an avowed democratic socialist. And he came to this event because, he was looking for other options because Joe Biden was not going to be his answer. And so he came to this event and he was moved deeply by the words that Joe said during her speech. And, he plans to support her, and he was, said he's going to vote for her. And that was pretty remarkable. But there was all kinds of scenarios like that where we talked to people on both sides of the political spectrum, former Trump voters who came out and realized that he wasn't quite who he said he was, and are now supporting Joe. So it was really encouraging seeing people coming from all places all over the political spectrum. And and then, so when we got back home after that last filming, I knew that I needed something else to tie everything together. So I searched out a political science professor, Dr. Lee Ward, who is he's really one of the top experts in the field. He's from a very prestigious university. He teaches undergraduate and graduate level political science classes, and he's not a libertarian. And so this was not me sort of searching out someone who could be, a talking point kind of person for us. It's let's find somebody who is an expert in their field and who can talk from an academic perspective. And it wound up that, of course, it really supported the ideas that we were talking about and the ideas of liberty. It was amazing to see the things that he said in some hypothetical scenarios of like, what would happen if Joe did win and became president. So yeah, it's pretty cool seeing the way everything came together.
I love it. Well, we are so excited to share your film with our viewers tonight. And while we're waiting for Jess to come on screen, I'll remind everyone that the best way to access the movie is to go to our Eventbrite page, which is at bit.ly/Election Eve with Joe. Election Eve with Joe. No E, J-O. And that'll walk you through the instructions on how to download the film, to rent, or to buy. And if you have any questions, that should all be answered in the Eventbrite page. So we are excited now to bring on Jess Mears, Deputy Campaign Director for Joe Jorgensen for President. Stephen, will you let me know when Jess is up? Great. Hey, Jess, how are you?
Hey, Lauren.
Thanks so
great.
much.
How are you?
I'm excellent. So you guys are in Dallas, getting ready for the big election party tomorrow. And now this has been a journey. You have been with the Liberty Party and with the Libertarian National Convention for a while now. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you and your experiences during the campaign, and then allow you to introduce Dr. Jorgensen. So tell us about you, Jess, the campaign, and your experiences.
Well, I'll tell you really briefly how I found the Libertarian Party and the Liberty Movement. It was back in 2006. I signed up for Facebook, and there was a drop-down option to choose your political affiliation. And I saw a whole bunch of options that I didn't know what any of these political parties were about. So I kind of started a quest to figure out what was my political affiliation, and I landed on Libertarian. And I can definitely say that once you kind of start identifying as a libertarian, you only get more libertarian as time goes on. So that is now ancient history. I've been involved with libertarian campaigns since 2008, and I worked on the Johnson campaign in 2016 and was really delighted to be hired on as Joe Jorgensen's aide on the campaign trail and later promoted to deputy campaign manager. So that's been my role this year. Every single mile that Dr. Jorgensen has flown since she came home from the convention, and every mile on the road, I've been with her the whole way. She often says on the campaign trail that she doesn't view this as a sacrifice, but as an honor and a privilege to be the Libertarian Party's nominee for President of the United States. But I definitely do feel like it is a giant sacrifice, spending all of the time away from home and away from your normal life. The documentary Longing for Liberty does a really great job of highlighting the campaign trail, but what it doesn't show is a lot of the behind the scenes, going into countless hotel rooms, delays, wasted time while driving or in transit. There's all of this behind the scenes type of stuff that people really don't even see that actually happen. And the campaign trail is pretty grueling. And I can say after many months of being on it, I'm exhausted myself and looking forward to a break in a couple more days. But yeah, I definitely think that Americans should be grateful for people like Dr. Jorgensen who decide to run and put their names forward to give Americans a voice and a choice on the ballot, no matter which political party they're running with. So I do want to express my own gratitude for Dr. Jorgensen for running.
I love it. And Jess, I think you highlighted something that's important for us to touch on for the Liberty Movement, which is that this is especially difficult for the Libertarian candidates because we are not guaranteed ballot access. As one of the parties who is not recognized as the major two parties, Democratic or Republican, ballot access is not guaranteed for our candidates. So half of the fight in this election cycle for Dr. Jorgensen and other candidates was getting on the ballot itself. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. So very grateful we were able to achieve 50 state plus DC ballot access. It was kind of difficult getting there. And during coronavirus, we had to put forward a number of legal challenges to avoid having our petitioners out petitioning during these elements earlier in the year. When we were still learning a lot about coronavirus, it was still relatively unknown how it was transmitted. And so we had to sue states to request that the petition threshold be limited or lowered because of the specific challenges when nobody wanted to sign petitions and our petitioners were out there in the streets not getting the normal amount of signatures that they usually get. So it was an exceptionally challenging year. and it did involve a lot of logistics and coordination. And one of the things that I did at the campaign stops is I kind of make a pitch to the people that are attending Dr. Jorgensen's rallies, and letting them know that we don't have an even playing field between Democrats, Republicans, and Libertarians. Financially, I think that everybody understands financially that the Democrats and Republicans have significantly more resources. But what they don't even understand is the ballot access issue, that we have trouble just getting ourselves on the ballot, staying on the ballot, and securing our space because of the challenges are often, the thresholds are often increased once we start to get to a level where we have maintained ballot access. Then they'll come in and say, or like, we're going to make it higher this year, or do some kind of logistical maneuvering to take us off of the ballot. So that's something I did, and educating the public at our campaign stops was about the challenges that third parties do face. And one of the things I often ask the individuals that were in the crowd was that I was looking for hat wearers, because in the Libertarian Party, there's many people that wear too many hats, and letting them know that we're looking for more people to put on a hat, to get involved with the Libertarian Party, and to get involved in our movement, and to find a way that makes sense to them to contribute to our movement.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate that you mentioned that, Jess, because we know that this liberty movement, this election cycle is only a jumping off point for so many people who are new to the party this year in this cycle. There are so many amazing opportunities to be involved, whether through People for Liberty, through the national party or convention, with individual campaigns, either at the state or local level or federal going into the midterms. So what would be your advice to people who are looking for ways to get involved?
Definitely, it is find what makes sense for you and find something that you enjoy doing, because we often find we'll have activist burnout when people take on too many roles, too many responsibilities. So find something that you enjoy doing. If it's a talent that you possess that you want to do more of, or a skill that you want to learn, find a new way that you can contribute to our movement that also helps and enhances your own life, whether it's graphic design, or if you're interested in making phone calls. Maybe you might want to learn more about leadership in that sense. Then being involved in a county affiliate or your state party is a ripe opportunity to learn more about how to be a leader and an organizer.
I love it. And one thing that's really easy for people to remember is the Libertarian Party website, which is just lp.org. You can't get much easier than that. And Jess, any last minute push? Tomorrow is election day. Want to make a last minute push to encourage people to head out to the polls?
Well, I just got into Dallas within the last hour, and one of the first things I noticed was some buildings that were boarded up. And I know this is happening across the country. Private businesses are deciding and choosing to board up their businesses in the event there are riots and looters and public unrest on Tuesday evening. And I couldn't think of a better example of why we need more options on the ballot than what could happen in the event that an election doesn't go the way that some people want it to be. So if the president has less power, then there's going to be fewer reasons why people would be so upset over who is the president. So go out and vote your conscience, and vote for a more peaceful society. And the only way that I can see America being more peaceful is if the president is no longer such an important factor that people riot in the streets because who is in the White House.
Amen to that. Absolutely. Jess, thank you so much for joining us. I know that we're going to be bringing on Dr. Joe Jorgensen in just a few minutes. So Jess, if you'll stay, actually, I think that you guys are using the exact same chair. So.
That's right. And she is ready. She'll be here in just a moment.
Great. I was going to suggest that you can introduce her on screen, but if you're using the same chair, that would be really challenging logistically. So
Right.
Jess, before Dr. Jorgensen comes on, would you like to say a few remarks to welcome her?
Let's see. All right. Well, The campaign trail has been very long, and it's had many bottles of bourbon that have been gifted to Dr. Jorgensen, but I look forward so much to a final toast Tuesday evening. And if anyone's in the Dallas area, please do come and join her for the election night party. And we'll have her on in just another moment if you'd like to go ahead and take me off screen for now.
Great, thanks, Jess. And to follow up on Jess's comments about the best ways to get involved, if you are a content creator, again, People for Liberty is looking for you. We are going to be elevating the thought leadership and voices of individuals in the Liberty movement, but not just people who were already a part of the movement, but you all who came to us for the first time. We'd like to share your stories, your voices, your blogs, your videos, your podcasts, merchandise if you've created it. We know that one of the best ways to support a well-functioning society is to support the free market. And libertarians have done such an amazing job of contributing to thought leadership, content, products, and services. So stay tuned and consider participating with us at People for Liberty. And Stephen, will you let me know when we bring up Dr. Joe Jorgensen? Welcome, Dr. Jorgensen. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good to see you.
Yeah. So Jess shared with us how grueling the campaign has been, but we know that there were a lot of really wonderful, positive, and uplifting moments as well. So before we jump into some of those wonderful moments and fond memories that you have from the campaign trail, for those who might be hearing from you for the first time, and we know there's a few, we've got a pretty wide reach online, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about who you are before we jump into campaign memories?
Sure, I'm a longtime libertarian, and the reason I'm running for office is because government is too big, too bossy, too nosy, too intrusive. But the worst part is they usually hurt the very people they try to help, and we keep seeing it over and over. And I've been going around the country telling voters that they know better how to spend their money and make decisions than any special interest or bureaucrat in Washington can.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Dr. Jorgensen, tell us about your experience during this election cycle. We know it's been a roller coaster, but again, there had to be wonderful, exciting moments out there on the road.
Oh yeah, it's been great. I don't even know how many states I've been to. I lost track. We, because of coronavirus, we were able to get a bus, and that's when I met Jordan. He rode the bus with us. And we got a big Rockstar bus because basically the venues have been shut down. And so the musicians just weren't touring. And so, of course, free market, the bus company would rather let us rent it dirt cheap than have it sitting there empty. So we were able to go around the country in a big bus and share the message. Sometimes we'd have 4 different cities in one day, smaller cities. We'd go from city to city. And sometimes we would just hit one large city at a time, a day.
And Dr. Jorgensen, you've had a chance to meet people from all walks of life. You were hitting major metropolises to small rural communities. And I know that you saw firsthand that these people are longing for liberty. Were there any moments that really stood out to you, either in the big cities, the small rural communities, that helped you to really kind of come back to center that we all want the same thing?
Oh yeah, especially talking with veterans. I've heard so many veterans say you would not believe how much support you have from veterans and from active soldiers. And my response is actually, yes, I would believe it because I know how much support Ron Paul got in 2012. Ron Paul received more campaign contributions from soldiers stationed overseas than all the other candidates combined. And people are surprised. They say, well, you know, if you're in the military, it seems like you'd want to spend more on the military, but no, they've been over there. They know that we're not getting anywhere at all. And I remember one veteran in Wisconsin told me that he saw things that no human should ever have to see. And it's no wonder that, you know, he told me he had the problems that he has. And we just need to put an end to it. There's no need for us to be over there, sending our young kids over there to just basically waste their lives.
Well, as a
And it'd be hard. Yeah, and I was going to say it'd be bad enough if it were just hurting them. But on top of that, it's costing us a lot of money. And on top of that, it's making our country less safe. It's making the 300+ million people in this country less safe. So it's why would we make that sacrifice to make ourselves less safe? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Well, as a military family member, I can say that personally hits home for me. I know it does for my family as well. So I appreciate so deeply your response to our veterans in the military community. We wanted to also celebrate all of the people who've supported your bid and the volunteers. So what would you like to say to all of the volunteers who were a part of your campaign, other campaigns, and the Liberty movement in general? There were so many people working behind the scenes.
Oh, just a huge, huge thank you. And I have done a lot of behind the scenes work. I did organize a county party, and I was also state vice chair for a while. And I also made the arrangements for our 1992 VP candidate to come into our town. We arranged the venue and everything. And it's a lot of work. And I only did it for a very short time, you know, helping the 1992 candidate. It was just for like a period of 3 days. So I know a lot of people are just putting in a lot of hours because it seems like it shouldn't take that much time, but it does. And it just goes on and on. And I know it's also a thankless job most of the time. It's behind the scenes. And, you know, you mentioned my grueling schedule. Yes, it was a lot of hard work, but at least I got to be on stage. At least I got the accolades. But so many of these volunteers, so many of these people who are working out there, they're just not getting the thanks. And I just want to say thank you so much. And I've been there. I know how it is. And yeah, by the way, I've also worked at several fairs where it's like 95-degree heat, and you know, it's just so uncomfortable, and you think, oh, if I can just talk to a few more people, it'll be worth it. So I know it's just a lot of work.
Well, I'm in Texas, so that speaks directly to us, Texas Libertarian.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to also highlight the wide and diverse community online who has supported you, been vocal with their networks, with their friends and family, the meme makers, the video bloggers, the TikTok warriors. So for all of those people who've been creating content to support you, what are your thoughts?
Oh, first of all, I want to say it's working. When we were on the bus tour, we had what was called the VIP experience, where people who gave a larger donation could come onto the bus with me either before or after I spoke, and you know, get a little tour and talk with us for a little while. And one of the guys who was very generous donated to the campaign. He said, "Yeah, so a friend of mine just kept annoying me with meme after meme after meme of you. And finally, I started reading them. And here I am now donating to your campaign." So I've been telling libertarians, okay, so the moral of the story here is just annoy your friends to death and maybe it'll do something. So yeah, so it does work because I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it from people saying, yeah, I just kept seeing all these memes, and you know what? It just made sense.
Well, and we know that those are the kind of small moments that spread like wildfire. So I love it. We know that, especially here in Texas, where we have so many candidates, that the candidates were really putting their blood, sweat, and tears into all of their campaigns as well. What would you like to say to the candidates?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I'm where you are, so I understand what you're going through. And it will be over soon, but I would like to thank every candidate, especially the local candidates, because we libertarians, we tend to find the national issues more exciting, talking about the military, talking about Social Security and healthcare. And so that's where most of the libertarians gravitate. So anybody running for school board or city council or mayor or anything like that, I got to tell you, thank you so much for doing that, because there aren't enough of you around, because most of us tend to gravitate towards the federal level offices. So thank you so much for putting in all that time. And that's where we can get a start. In fact, my national volunteer coordinator said that 2020 is going to be the first year a Libertarian president is elected. And he followed it up by saying that person won't be elected to president, but that person will be elected to mayor, state house, city council, something like that. And eventually one day will be elected to the presidency. So unfortunately, where we are right now, it is possible to come in kind of at the top. And someday, if we get enough people running for the state and local offices, we will get to a point to where we can just start populating all of these. And also, if you do win, it just helps so much. I know Jim Turney in Florida and Jeff Hewitt in California, they're really showing what a true libertarian is like. And at first the people are a little wary, like, okay, what's this libertarian? What's this guy all about? And then after a while, they get to thinking, he's really saving us a lot of money. Look at what good he's doing. And so, if all we do is run for president and we're just seen at a distance, then libertarians are kind of like a mystery. People don't know much about us. But if you can run for city council or school board and get to talk with people, then they get to learn, those libertarians, okay, maybe they are just like you and me, maybe they are, they just want the best for their family. And by the way, they actually follow through on what they say they'll do. So we just need so many more people at the local level.
I love that. And especially highlighting that our first Libertarian president is going to get elected this cycle at some point in some city, in some town. What a powerful message and reminder to everyone that if you're joining the movement for the first time, or if you have been a part since day one, this is a pivotal year for all of us.
Yep.
And
Sure
Dr.
is.
I think that really brings it back to this concept of longing for liberty, and why this really has been kind of a cultural zeitgeist moment for us. That you look back and you don't realize things are a turning point until you reflect later. And I think we can say this is going to be one of those moments. So for all of those people who have been longing for liberty, who voted for you, who are throwing their support behind the movement, what would you say to everyone who's part of this tipping point?
Well, first of all, thank you, because you are making a difference. You're not just making a difference in your own life, you're also making a difference for the country. We've been known as the freest country on earth. And if we keep heading towards socialism, then where are we going to turn? And by the way, we've already lost our high ranking. We're something like 16th in economic freedom in our country. So we have to turn it around. And in order to do that, it's going to take a lot of voices, a lot of people voting, a lot of people saying, nope, we don't want Trump, Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and all these other people who are making government bigger. We should have the right to make our own decisions. And by the way, I was the 1996 VP candidate. And I remember going around telling everybody how, oh my gosh, this $5 trillion debt, it's just huge. How are we ever going to dig our way out of it? And I kept saying, if we don't start turning it around now, we're never going to get out of it. And I look back at that $5 trillion debt and I think, how quaint. Wouldn't that be great if we could have $5 trillion? Now we're at over 5 times that. So if you voted in this election for freedom, if you voted libertarian, then you're sending a message that no, we're not going to let you just keep running off like this. And I hate to pass along some of the criticisms of the Libertarian Party, but I'm going to pass along this one just because it's so obviously wrong. A lot of people say, well, libertarians are just kind of extremists, aren't they? And my reply is, I would say that somebody who spends over half of your money is extreme. I would say that sending your military to 150 countries around the world and spending more than the next 7 countries combined on military is extreme. I would say that people not having a choice over how they school their children, whether or not they vaccinate, what kind of health care, and even what kind of retirement. I mean, does it make any sense at all that we all vote on having the same retirement system? It makes absolutely no sense at all. So anybody who voted, thank you so much. We've got to send a clear message to Washington. And if we can turn it around now, then it's just going to be helping our country for many generations to come.
I love it. Dr. Jorgensen, thank you again so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We are all going to be keeping you in our thoughts and our prayers, not to get cliche, but there it is, to whatever higher power that we are all praying to. And we're excited because, again, this is the start of, not the stopping point for so many of us. And you were part of that journey for people coming to the Liberty Movement for the first time, like me. So thank you again.
Well, thank you.
Excellent.
Well, thank you. That's one of the nicest things that I hear when I'm at conventions is when somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, I heard you speak in 1996 or 1998 or whatever year, and thanks to you, I'm in the party." And that's so rewarding. So all the people who are out there voting today, wouldn't it be nice to have somebody say that to you as well?
Thank you, Dr. Jorgensen. And we're going to have Joe Bishop Henchman up next.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thanks so much, Stephen. Wasn't that amazing, y'all? The thought that the next president, the first libertarian president of the United States, is likely getting elected this cycle. They are going to be the mayor of a town. They are going to be on city council, a state representative, maybe a US senator. We have some amazing candidates running this cycle, but what a powerful message and a powerful thing to consider. So I think this is perfect timing to bring on our next guest, Joe Bishop Henchman, who's chair of the Libertarian National Committee. Joe, it's so great to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you, Lauren. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I hope you don't mind. I'm trying to stay caffeinated right now.
By all means, same. So Joe, we just had a great conversation with Dr. Jorgensen. And
yeah, I thought it was great. And I forget if I've said this before, but 1996, when I was 15 years old, I was active and printed up my own Youth for Brown Jorgensen stickers or pamphlets. There were a couple of us in San Diego, and we handed those out. So it's no, I mean, every time I interacted with her over the campaign this year, I always remembered that, teenage me handing out those flyers and getting a chance to do it all over again too.
What a full circle moment.
Absolutely.
So Joe, we've had the opportunity to speak before. Thank you for coming back. But for those of you who might be meeting you, Joe, for the first time, why don't you introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about your history in the Liberty Movement and your role as chair of the National Committee?
Sure. So I'm chair of the Libertarian National Committee. Took that office just over 100 days ago in July of this year. So our national committee consists of 17 people. It's 8 regional representatives, 5 at-large representatives, and 4 officers. And I'm one of the officers, and I get elected at the Libertarian National Convention. So that's where I was elected, and have this job for 2 years. And it's my first term, so I'm very new on the job. But been in the party a very long time and had been on the national committee prior to becoming elected chair. And so our job on the national committee is, it's a lot of paperwork and it's a lot of, all the fun FEC stuff.
Yes.
But it's also, we're who a lot of libertarians look to kind of be the vanguard of executing our strategy and leading where we want the party to go. And I've worked I live in Washington, D.C. It's not where I am now, but I live in Washington, D.C. and I've worked with basically every libertarian policy group and think tank and activist organization over the years. And, they all do great work. There are a lot of wonderful groups out there and great groups. But Libertarian Party is the only one focused on electing libertarians to public office. So that's kind of our knitting that we should be sticking to. There's a lot of other groups out there that do a lot of the other functions, including People for Liberty. So that's why a lot of my focus is going to be on getting people elected and then transforming public policy, because it's the one thing that only the Libertarian Party can do. So I'm in a hotel room in Riverton, Wyoming right now, where tomorrow I'm going to be helping with the Get Out the Vote effort for one of our candidates for state legislature, Bethany Baldus in Wyoming District 55. We have not elected a Libertarian state legislator in a generation. It's been since the 1990s. And I'm hoping we break that streak and start from the beginning. And the press has started to notice here. This is the Wyoming paper, Shaping the State House. And if you read the article, it's about Wyoming's fledgling Libertarian Party stands poised to make a statement this year, with several candidates in places posing credible threats to seats long held by Democrats or Republicans. And today maybe it's just the Wyoming legislature, but I'd like to see headlines like this all over the place in November of 22, November of 24, and so on. So I don't know, I can keep rambling, but so.
No, and this is what we wanted to talk about. This is perfect, because when we think about, that future president is going to be elected this cycle or next cycle, and really thinking about how, again, people who are coming to the Liberty Movement for the first time, or who might be reinvigorated this election cycle, it's about getting involved. And change doesn't happen unless people elect to wear those hats, as Jess Meir said. We need people who are willing to step into leadership opportunities. So this is your area of expertise, Joe. Talk to us about how people can make a difference in shaping policy, in helping to run and elect candidates. There are so many opportunities for people to share their voice and elevate the party, that going into these midterms, we got to stay just as busy and just as head forward and forward thinking.
Absolutely. And, my professional career is, I'm a lawyer and I work with state legislators to pass better tax policy. So I've testified to 36 states. In non-COVID years, I'm traveling the country and working with state legislators on what they can do to make their tax systems more competitive and lower. And in that experience, I certainly understood firsthand, it's really hard to get Democrats and Republicans to do libertarian things. It's not impossible. Managed to get about $2 billion a year worth of tax cuts and some significant reforms in a number of states, but it would have been a lot easier, honestly, with even one libertarian at the legislative negotiating table. I'll take a lot more than one, but even one would have made a big difference. And so that's a personal goal that I have, is I want to see libertarians elected all over the place, because I think that immediately changes the center of the political conversation. If you've got libertarians at the table. And I know Jeff Hewitt has already been brought up on this call today. He's our supervisor in Riverside County, which is a board of 5. He's one of the 5, and him being there changes the conversation. It changes the agenda on things like pension reform, which is a big topic of his, and business licensing and tax policy and social spending and contracting out of services and all the things that we can bring about. And somebody just sent me a tweet from a Washington Post reporter who's interviewing voters as they're coming out of early voting in the District of Columbia. And I'm on the ballot in the District of Columbia running for DC Council. And Tyler, 32, I don't know who he is. I've talked to all the Tylers I know and nobody says it's them. He said he voted for me because he thinks it would be a benefit to the DC Council to have a libertarian as one of the 13 at the dais there. And I agree, he's absolutely right. Libertarians have a lot to offer. We're natural coalition builders. We understand the left in a way the right never will. We understand the right in a way the left never will. And we can find solutions, because the great thing about Libertarians, and why one of the big reason I love being chair of the Libertarian Party, is it's not about power and being hungry for power. Our candidates run, and our activists and our ballot access petitioners and everybody who does something for the party does it because they want to see a better country and a better world, for themselves, for their children, for their grandchildren, for everybody. And that's really the motivation there. I mean, nobody's getting rich off this. Nobody's getting famous off this. And that's unfortunate, but yeah, that's so it really motivates me. It keeps me going, and I'm hoping that the wins that we'll be able to have, and we don't trumpet them often enough. We've got over 230 elected officials in nearly 40 states, and we're going to add to that this week. And I had a meeting earlier today talking about how we can better coordinate our elected officials in multiple states all over the country. I mean, this is a problem we now have. It's a good problem. I'm glad we have it.
Well, and I love that you bring that up, Joe, because going into these midterms and looking ahead, there are so many wonderful opportunities. And again, that speaks to how people can become involved.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I rambled there. You wanted to know how people can get involved.
All good stuff.
Well, I mean, and there's been so many opportunities that have been put up this year, and I really do have to give Joe and Spike's campaign a special credit on that. Is unlike previous campaigns, and I don't want to be too negative on it, but unlike previous campaigns that kind of brought in hired guns and consultants and all of that, for the most part, that's not how Joe and Spike's campaign operated, for good or for bad. And a good part of that is there was a lot of kind of on-the-job training for a lot of our people who were given important jobs to try to handle, and for the most part performed stellarly. I got to join the text banking operation the other night. Got to send a few texts myself. Nowhere close to I think one person has sent 60,000 text messages for the Joe and Spike campaign, which is just kind of mind-boggling to me. But I mean, this is, how you win elections is not a mystery. It's you come up with messaging that connects with voters on issues that they care about. You door knock, you phone bank, you text bank, you sign wave, you greet voters when they show up to vote, and you answer their questions, and you are involved in the community, and all of these things. This is how you elect people. And there's a lot of opportunities for people to get involved in all of that, because we need people who know how to manage campaigns. We need people who know how to run field operations. We need people who are willing to text bank and phone bank. We need people willing to be candidates. We need people willing to help them with messaging. There's just so many roles out there. And if we do succeed tomorrow in electing more libertarians and libertarians to higher levels, that's only going to whet the appetite for doing even more in 2021 and 2022 and 2024. So, whatever the skill that you have or whatever interest area that you may have, there will be opportunities to get involved, and lots of them.
I love that. And I'll say, as a former social worker turned fundraiser, these skills translate. If you have led a Girl Scout troop, you have volunteer management experience. If you have run your own small business, you have experience managing a campaign, because launching a business is a campaign. If you have experience, as a graphic designer or in marketing, all of these skills translate. And between People for Liberty and the Libertarian Party, and then individual campaigns at your county and state level, there are opportunities for everyone. And Joe, why don't you tell people where they can go to find more information? Because if you're interested in being a candidate, you should look somewhere specific. If you're interested in volunteering. So why don't you tell people, where do they go after this? Well,
you can always, send stuff to me and I can send it to the right person. And my email address is very easy to remember. It's chair@lp.org. But people interested in being candidates, Kara Schultz, well, either talk to your state or local party, because they often, that really should be your first stop on a lot of stuff. But Kara Schultz on our national staff She's got a lot of kind of off the shelf stuff for people thinking about running for office, and how to go about doing that. And you can either email me, or you can get her contact information on our website. She's pretty easy to find. For people interested in helping out with fundraising, there's Tara DeSisto on our national staff. For people interested in helping build up affiliates, Valerie Sarwark is the chair of our affiliate support committee. She's valerie.sarwark@lp.org. And they're actually, her committee is working on updating our kind of guidebook for running and building up county and state affiliates, with all of the best practices and good ideas that are out there to help do that. And then for people willing to kind of volunteer on a regular basis, honestly, the first hire that I'm making right now is somebody to coordinate volunteers who want to help out. And that's something that we have to do better on as a party. Is there are so many people who are willing to lend their time and get involved and reach out, and we're not always the best at getting back to those people and making sure that they're connected with. And I know it's something that you feel very strongly about too, Lauren. So that's something that I want to try to do better on as a party, so that we don't lose people who are interested in getting more involved.
Well, and you do speak to something near and dear to my heart, Joe, is helping people stay connected. And we are going to continue to run our peer-based affiliate groups. Those will transition to women voters or military or Black voters, or whatever the case may be, for Joe Jorgensen to For Liberty.
Yeah.
And really, where we're hoping to help build advocates and influencers among our wide network is in talking about how they're living the principles of liberty in their daily lives. We don't want to talk about politics all day, every day. This election cycle has been enough. But if we can talk about how we're living the principles, how we are approaching decisions around where and how to send our children to school, about how we are approaching our tax savings plans, about how we're getting involved in our daily community, we are living the principles of the liberty movement each and every day. And this is where we can come together as a community, connect with one another, support one another. That's not only building a pipeline for future candidates, but helping to raise awareness at those local, state, and national level.
That's so important, because libertarians were painted unfairly, very unfairly, as selfish, in it for ourselves, not, heartless. I've heard it so many different ways, and it's just absolutely not true. And there's so many examples of libertarians practicing what we preach on the private sector and individual initiative, doing a better job when you get government out of the way. And
Yes.
It's actually now my stump speech when I speak to libertarian audiences and every time I give it, I get another example or two of libertarians who are doing amazing things. So in the DC area where I live, when we first started kind of going into lockdown and shutdown and everything, or in the spring due to the coronavirus, obviously there were a lot of people who couldn't go out of doors, immunocompromised, elderly people. And it was libertarians, some good friends of mine, Luca and Amanda, who organized efforts so Luca organized efforts to identify who these people were and make sure that they were getting food and essential supplies, and organizing all the volunteers to do that on a regular basis. Because it's one thing to do it once for a big show, but to keep it going for the extended time period that we've had to deal with. And then Amanda, she helped connect teenagers who didn't have school anymore and were just kind of sitting around bored with adults with children who had to telecommute and couldn't watch their children all day because they had to work, and connecting all of that. And that, I guess that could have been a government program, but I mean, how effective would that have been? How quickly would they have moved to achieve the same, to achieve the result that Amanda and some others have been able to put? And that's just two examples of libertarians stepping up where it's needed. And there's so many other examples that I've seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears. And we're not generally big on trumpeting ourselves and promoting ourselves on this stuff. And that's, it's noble in one way, but unfortunately it feeds into this narrative that there are no counterexamples. Because I think a lot of people encounter some jerk libertarian at one point, and then that colors their perception of all libertarians. And we've got to do more. All of us have to do more at pushing back against that unfair and untrue stereotype.
Well, and that's, sharing our stories of living for liberty, which People for Liberty is hoping to elevate. And that leads us into the film Longing for Liberty tonight. So, Joe, always love talking to you, my friend. I'm excited about tomorrow. I'm excited about everything to come. And I know that we are going to do great things together with all of the people who have made such a difference under your leadership at the LP, and with all of the amazing candidates who have made such a difference.
We're on tailwind right now. I just got an update that there are now 652,000 registered libertarians in the United States. That's double what it was 10 years ago. It's up 7% since March. And what it means is 1 in 200 people are registered libertarians. Now, in 2016, 1 in 30 people voted for Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. We'll find out tomorrow what it is for Joe and Spike, but I'm old enough to remember when our national ticket would get 500,000 votes, and so that was like, I don't know, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 2,000 people were libertarians. So there's more of us around now. We're growing, we've got tailwinds, and the future's very bright.
I love it. Thank you so much, Joe, and we'll check in with you again.
Yes.
Okay, a big thank you to everyone who's tuned in, to Dr. Jorgensen, to Joe Bishop-Henchman, to Jess Mears, and to Jordan Taylor Bunch. And I'm excited to help bring his film to all of you. If you did not see the login information on our Eventbrite, we'll bring that back up again so you can see the login information. The film Longing for Liberty is about a little under an hour and a half. But we thought tonight, on election eve of all nights, this was the perfect time to remember the principles and why we as individuals support the liberty movement. Because no matter what the outcome of the elections may be tomorrow, you have all made a difference. And thank you for joining us tonight. We'll bring up the information so you can access Longing for Liberty yourself. And we hope that you'll follow us at People, 4, Liberty, and that's .org if you're visiting our website. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And again, if you're a content creator, we want to talk to you. We want to elevate those voices and your great ideas. So thanks again for tuning in, y'all, and let's all be part of the movement moving forward. Thank you.